Hi, everybody.
Hey, Bill.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Chief.
Hey. Let's see.
Just want to give it another minute to the official time to see if we have any public participation.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, my screen is frozen, so I don't know if you could hear me.
We see you moving around.
All right, so you can see me.
Yeah.
All right. Let me try something here. Oh, there you are there. I can see you in like a little window there, Bill.
Yeah, you look teeny weeny. You look like you look like a mini me, Chief.
I've been trying to lose weight.
Apparently, you and Phil Mickelson. Did you see him?
No.
Yeah, I saw something on ESPN today about him. He's lost a ton of weight.
Huh. All right, when I expand the view, all of you freeze, you don't move, so I'm gonna have to minimize you.
You and the deputy couldn't take care of that rowdy crowd in the bleacher seats up behind you at the town meeting, huh?
I just wanted to get out of there before there was fist fights.
Did they really go through twice and not count them?
Yeah.
That was weird.
That section, for whatever reason, got skipped twice.
Yeah, I call that the monster seats or the bleacher seats.
Yeah. Sometimes those will be the most expensive ones, though.
Yeah.
All right, some reason I only have you in like a little thumbnail picture, so
All right, well,
it'll have to do. I can only see one of you at a time.
really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
Huh. Okay, well, let's call it 6:30 and why don't we get started? I don't see any public participation, so I want to thank the chief and deputy chief for taking the time to meet with Amy and Ed and I. This is our second go round with you as a subcommittee. So we appreciate you taking some time. What I suggest, and what I passed out was this sort of a simple iteration of the budget where I highlighted the 2023 and the 2024 by the major categories, and then went down into the line items of the percent increases or decreases by the categories. And unless Amy or Ed have other thoughts, I thought we could kind of step through it in that way. Does that work for everybody?
It does. Do we need to approve the minutes from the meeting last year? Or do we do that at FinCom? Well,
I'll do minutes to this and I'll share with you guys tomorrow what I put together for minutes for tonight. And then with your, including, the chief and deputy chief, and then with your blessing, I'll pass it on to the rest of our finance committee team. And it goes to Sherry and Steve. Technically, somehow the minutes get posted somewhere. So
okay.
that's the process as I know it. So, we have Lieutenant Anderson on the phone on with us also.
Yes, I am. I'm trying to join for a few, but we'll see how long I'll be able to stay for.
Okay, cool.
As long as you'll have me.
Okay, you see this, the chief is a shrunken form of himself. Have you noticed that? Or can you see?
I can. He looks just fine from here.
That's why I always like you, Joe.
Yeah, I know. Say the right things at the right times.
Good answer. Okay. So, Chief, you want to start, you want to go through the personal services, which, at a high level is 2.6% increase for that category. Interestingly, last year, the increase was 6.51%. Folks may or may not recall. So the overall increase of 2.4, unless this hasn't changed, Chief, since I got it from you in the last week, has it?
No, so I can give an explanation of why
Okay.
that percentage is what it is.
Okay, so do you want to go through? So you want to go through the personal services and just touch on a couple of line items,
I do, and what I'll do is I'll explain the regular salaries line.
Yep.
And the percentage increase there.
Yep.
And I will take you through each, after I do that, I'm going to take you through each person listed in the bottom of the budget, just so you understand percentage increases for raises, because some people are higher than others.
Yep.
So you may have some questions about that.
Yeah.
So the current contract for the patrol officers and the superior officers expires on June 30th, and negotiations have yet to start for a new contract. So this budget here does not reflect a contractual raise on July 1st. So what will happen is if the unions negotiate a contract before the end of this fiscal year, Mr. Mayo will have an article at the spring town meeting to fund whatever that increase would be based on their raise. So we don't have to worry about that with this budget that we're studying tonight.
Well, the only thing is that explains why the increase is so low.
Correct. So now I'm going to explain.
That's going to jump way up with other salary increases.
Correct. If they finalize a contract, it will jump up.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
The 2% percentage increase that you see for most officers that's on there now, that was impact bargaining over body cams. The unions met with myself and Mr. Mayo, and that's what they negotiated for wearing body cams. So that took effect January 1st of 23. That just happened. So when you look down at the personnel and you see a 2.02% raise or 2.01, that's from the bargaining for the body cams.
Okay, just for the benefit, I had the benefit of speaking with you last week. The body cams were turned on yesterday, right?
Correct. So they're up and working. It was a much more involved process than I had anticipated. There's integration between the camera system and our computer-aided dispatch, and it took a lot of work on behalf of our IT department to make that integration happen, and it actually took a couple of months. So I didn't really expect that, but that happened, and it took a little while to get everybody trained, but they're up and running now.
Okay,
it's a good thing.
All right, but the bottom line is this regular salaries line of 4.5 is going to be something different when all is said and done.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate a deal before the end of the fiscal year, Chief? Or
I do. I think Mr. Mayo likes to have these contracts finalized before the current contract expires. It's been his trend, but he will take care of that with an article at town meeting.
And congratulations on getting it in the contract with the cameras. It's 2%. You're gonna have to pay some money. Everyone does, but that's a good accomplishment as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Thanks. I felt that we did well. The unions did their due diligence. They checked with other police departments, other unions to see what they had negotiated, and I think that what they got was fair, and I think it was fair for the town.
Yeah.
So let me take you down. Let's go down to the actual personnel, and I'll run through anybody who's not at the 2%. Myself, I'm at 3 because I am in a contract. I have a contract currently. Sergeant Erickson.
When does your contract run through, Chief?
I'm good for till the end of 25.
Okay, thank you.
So the first percentage you'll see that doesn't fit the trend here is Sergeant Erickson. He is at minus 5.59%. And that's because he went from being a sergeant on nights to a sergeant on days. He lost his night differential, which was 8%, but then he gained 2% back with the body cams. Sergeant Haggerty is at 3% because he is at a longevity milestone, which is a 1% increase for him. And if you keep scrolling down, the big one you'll see is Sergeant Conway. He's at line 252 on this budget. And he's got a 16.84% increase. And the reason for that is because last year's budget, Sean Conway was a patrol officer. He got promoted to sergeant in April, went to a step 1 sergeant then, and he's coming up, he's currently a step 2 sergeant, and in this budget, he will be going to a step 3. So that's why you see such a significant jump for him.
I thought that if your name was Conway, you got a pay differential of 10% automatically in Wakefield.
That may be something I don't know about, but it's always a possibility. Then you see Officer Smigilski. He's at 5.55%. He has gone from a step 3 on nights to a step 4 on nights on this budget. And then if you scroll down line 273, you see Officer Kevin Carey. His percentage is minus 6.39%. So Officer Carey is new to us, and he replaced Officer Jeanette DeMasi. Jeanette left to go take a job as a special agent with Customs and Immigration Service. So Jeanette was a top step night patrol officer, and Officer Carey replaces her at a first step patrol officer pay. So that's why you see that line item with a minus 6.39% change.
Can I just ask you, officer specialist, is that better known to us as a detective?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. In the pay scale, the pay scale title has it as officer specialist.
Okay, thank you.
Did you touch on Officer or Sergeant Flynn?
So Sergeant Flynn went from a, he got an increase because he went from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree.
Increase in Quinn, then, yeah. Right.
Correct. He got a 5% increase. So if we go down to the next page, let's see. We have Officer O'Brien. Last year he split half the year. He was a step 4 nights, step 5 nights. Now for this year, for the whole year, he'll be a step 5, which is why you see the 4% increase. The next person is Officer Benoit, 6.97%. Officer Benoit replaces Officer Jerry Holleran, who retired last year on March 23rd. Officer Holleran was a day sergeant, a day patrol officer. He had no Quinn bill. And Officer Benoit's on nights. He has night differential, and he has a bachelor's degree. So his pay is more than what Officer Holleran was, which is why you see the 6.97% increase there. Officer Pietrantonio, he hit a longevity milestone, so he got a 1% increase on top of the body cams. Officer McCusker, who is below Officer Pietrantonio, hasn't actually started with us yet. He's scheduled to start the police academy on February 20th. But in this budget, he replaces Officer Peterson, who left us back in the summertime to take a job with MIT. Officer Peterson was a step 3 and 4 in last year's budget, and Officer McCusker will be coming in at a step 1. So that's why you see the decrease there. We currently have a vacant officer position. We're working on hiring somebody right now to fill that spot.
Are you having any trouble recruiting for it? That's the weird thing going on nowadays. Is that,
Well, Ed, I have a whole speech prepared on that for later.
yeah.
That we could talk for hours about that.
Yeah, like it's very strange, you know,
Yeah,
to be coveted positions and now it's
we,
difficult.
it's a challenge. I'll talk about that in a little bit after I get through
Okay.
the salaries here.
Okay,
So if you scroll down to the next page, you have Officer Patello. She's at line 361. She got a step raise from step 3 nights to step 4 nights. Officer Wilson, he's like Officer O'Brien. Last year he did half the year at step 4, half the year at step 5. This budget, he'll be step 5 for the whole year. Officer Jancy and Officer Gover, they got hired with Officer Patello, so they also go from step 2 nights to step 3 nights. Step 3 nights to step 4 nights. So that's why you see that 5% increase. And that covers everybody there. So that hopefully explains any increase. It's not 2%. Any questions on that? Okay, so that is regular salaries. Education incentive, that line item goes up 4.8% because we replaced one person that did not have Quinn bill with somebody who does. And the 2% increase has an effect on education incentive. So those are the new numbers for education incentive. Parking, clerical, that went up just whatever the 3% raise for those folks. Fitness incentive stays the same. Town meeting election stays the same. July 4th, I increased by $4,000 because last year we were budgeted for $38,000 and we spent $41,500. It was the first year back with the 4th of July, the parade and the fireworks in 3 years. And every year that goes by, things become more complicated for us in the planning stages for security. We add more features, and with that comes the increase in personnel that we need. Plus the 4th of July rate goes up every year. So we need to increase that fund a little bit.
so Chief, is that straight time or overtime to pay for July 4th?
So the incentive to get people here on the 4th of July is that it's time and a half of the detail rate.
Oh, okay,
It's not an overtime rate. Otherwise, everybody would be getting paid a different
Yeah.
amount. So
what's the detail rate?
the detail rate last year was $64 an hour.
Okay,
So it's the only day of the year that we order everybody into work. So to make it worth everybody's, to try and entice people to accept it a little better, so
sure,
to speak,
sure.
we give them time and a half of the detail rate.
Mhm.
We have people that are driving back from family vacations to come in and work on the 4th. So gotta make the blow, soften the blow a little bit. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Training, that account's fine. Holidays, that had a significant increase last year that was long overdue. Firearm qualifications, I've asked for a small increase there because I don't know if everybody's familiar with what POST is, but it's the Police Officer Standards and Training Commission.
Yep.
And as a result of the creation of POST and the Police Reform Bill from 2020, there are new training standards for police officers and a million different things, but particularly firearms. And they've added the number of hours that we need to spend training, particularly with tasers. So the increase I've asked for there should cover the increased number of hours that we will spend doing our taser instruction. And you should anticipate that in the next, every year going forward, I will ask for more training money because POST is focusing a lot on increasing training standards. Our firearms instructors are now required to attend, in addition to the training they've already had, probably another 9 training classes just to be able to continue teaching what they already teach. So the big jump is vacation substitution overtime. And I asked to increase this by 30,000. The reason for that is historically, Sundays, we let minimum staffing go down to 3 officers on the street. And that dates all the way back to forever. The blue laws were in effect back then. Nothing was open on Sundays. Nobody went out on Sundays. Everybody stayed home with their families. Things were quiet. Obviously, things have changed. Everything's open on Sundays. Sundays for us now, a Sunday day shift is just as busy as any other day shift of the week. So we're looking for the additional, I calculated it out based on the number of days, Sundays in the last couple of years that we went short, down to 3 people, and that it would cost about $30,000 to staff that Sunday day shift with a 4th person for the entire year. It's really important to have that 4th person. One incident, one serious car accident, one prisoner, and all of a sudden you're down to 1 or 2 people available to take calls for the rest of the town. So it does, 3 people doesn't cut it. It needs to be 4. And I expect that that's what it would take to cover that.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing to think there's only 3 out there on Sunday. That's yeah.
It's kind of like a magic trick to pull that off. So, but I think we've been running on fumes for a while on that, and sooner or later we'll run out of luck if we don't staff that 4th officer on Sundays.
So the 4th officer is overtime.
Correct. And it doesn't mean that there'll always be an overtime on a Sunday day shift, but so how it works now is there's 4 officers scheduled for the day shift. And if one takes say a vacation day, it goes down to 3. We don't backfill that. If a 2nd officer took a vacation day, we would backfill the 2nd vacation, but it wouldn't go back up to 4. It would stay at 3. So we're just looking to make sure that that 4th person is staffed, because it gets hairy sometimes when you get a couple of calls at the same time and all of a sudden you don't have enough bodies to cover them. So that should take care of all the personal services accounts. Any questions on that?
Well, it seems like overtime's your big problem this year, huh? You spent 75% of it through December 31st. What's driving some of the other overtime? Is it injury leave or people
So
out?
if you look at sick time, let's see what we've already used this year. So we're budgeted for 71.8. We've already used 69,461. We've had 3 people out with long-term injuries.
Yeah.
One has since retired. One will be retiring in the next few months. One came back. One went out injured last April and came back the 3rd week of September. So there've been long-term injuries. We've had a good number of our officers going on FMLA for childbirth.
Yeah.
I think we had a baby boom in the last month. I think we had 5 kids born in the last month. And we've also had a lot of COVID this year. And COVID hasn't consumed a ton of sick time like it did when it first came out, but people are being cautious about it and being respectful of their coworkers and taking 4 or 5 days out of work to make sure they don't infect anybody. So between COVID, FMLA, and long-term injuries, that's why you see that sick account maxed out already.
Yeah, the FMLA really drives up costs. You can't plan for that as well, so not just police, but a lot of departments,
And it's much different than it was. I mean, I never took FMLA. It wasn't done back when my wife had kids, but now it seems to be the norm. So
right, exactly. Yeah.
It happens. And then if you look at the emergency overtime budget, we're budgeted for 107.7. We've already used 84.3. What that account is, that account covers the unexpected. It's investigations. It's overtime when we bring extra officers in for a major event or an unforeseen event. It could be a storm, power outages. It could be a big incident that we have. We might have a prisoner at the hospital all weekend that we need to pay overtime to have somebody watching the prisoner. Detective investigations. And those are the things you can't predict. Some years you might not have any emergencies, and some years you have a lot. That's the unpredictable account right there.
Right. Well, it looks like you might be able to get out of the fiscal year because you have the court time is down, so you might be able to get out okay. Not any supplementals.
So we've been kind of cautious with court, and we try not to send unnecessary people to court because, like you said, Ed, we're going to use that money to try and offset some of the overages in the other accounts.
Yep.
The town meeting and elections account, I'm not really sure where that's going to land because now we had the we had the extra town meeting. We have an extra election coming up for the high school, so
Hmm.
I think we'll still be able to keep that under 12, but I'm not entirely certain on that. Any other questions on personal services?
Well, you only get one polling place for the town election. I get 21 in Somerville. Have to be staffed by police, so so you're lucky in that regard.
We used to have 6, so we've been able to cut down a lot on the number of officers that we assign to the polls.
Yeah.
Amy, do you have any questions?
No, I had made notes and you've pretty much hit on everything I had flagged to ask about, so.
Okay. Bill, are you good on this?
Yeah, let's go. Let's move to contractual, chief.
All right, contractual services, everything is the same except for computer maintenance software. There was in fiscal year 22, that account was at 19,000. And last year I asked for it to be bumped up to 69, an additional 50,000 to cover video storage costs for the body cams. So we had done our due diligence and we vetted out 5 different companies for body cams. And the company that we chose was GTAC, and the storage cost for their video came in less than the 50,000. So I cut that by $10,000 to try and give some money back. I did reappropriate 5,000 of that to the fuel budget, but I cut that one line item by 10,000. Everything else there stayed the same.
Okay, materials and supplies.
Materials and supplies, like I said, I added 5,000 to fuel. We're at 38,516 now. The price of fuel starting to go back up. I anticipate that fuel will continue to go up this calendar year and probably not start to come down until next January. 2024 is an election year, so I figure the price of gas will probably start coming down next year.
Do you have a bunch of tires to buy, chief?
We do. So we actually just got a bill today for $600 for tires. So I'm pretty cautious with these material and supply line items, as well as the contractual services throughout the year, because what happens is we get slammed pretty much starting in April with large bills. So I try to make sure that we have money left to cover these large bills, especially like service contracts, warranties. And we go pretty sparse on supplies until I know that we have the money to buy them. So once I know what we have left for money to buy supplies, that's when we really start to amp up the purchasing on making sure that we have the supplies that we need.
So medical supplies is only $850 out of 6,200. Books is $150 out of 1,000.
Right. So we might overspend in one line item, and I try to make sure that there's money left over in another to cover that overage, so that at the end of the fiscal year, when you look at that bottom line of materials and supplies, there's no overage there.
Okay, but the run rate right now on a lot of these is low compared to what you might expect it, halfway through the year.
Yeah, and like I said, it's also been interesting because of the building being under construction. Like there's a lot of things that we haven't bought, because even if we bought them, there's nowhere to put the stuff. If we were to stock up on paper right now, we have nowhere to put it. So once the building's done, we'll be able to really start buying what we need.
What is that? The public safety category, what does that entail?
That covers like ammunition for firearms. It covers taser cartridges for training. There's a lot of training items that are included in that. And it might include things that we need for the cruisers, whether I need to buy new ballistic vests or a ballistic helmet, any kind of tactical gear that we might need, any kind of equipment. It's really the only line item we can buy equipment out of.
Just going back, I probably should ask this question. Contractual services, the professional services, that's the mental health clinician. Is that funded in that, or the?
It is. That's the mental health clinician and the recovery coach.
Okay. How's that working out for you?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think, credit goes to Deputy Chief Calabrese, that's his baby. And I think we are the model for everybody around us. I get calls all the time from other chiefs asking how we do it, because we've been lucky, we've had the same mental health clinician now for 8 or 9 years. The recovery coach has been with us for probably 4 or 5. And I know that Stoneham, Melrose, they're having a real difficult time finding mental health clinicians that they like, that can do the job and that actually stay. So I think we've been quite fortunate with that. The mental health clinician, the recovery coach, they have a lot of resources available to them that we as police don't. And they have quite a following. They have a lot of people that just reach out to them constantly for help. So it worked. It's an asset that we couldn't do without, let's put it that way.
Actually, and I'm glad you brought that up, only from the perspective of, for me, is why does that number stay the same? I mean, it's labor, right?
It is labor. They have a contractual labor rate agreement with Elliott Community Health Services, who they work for. So
Okay,
we don't negotiate raises with them.
okay, but to stay the same year over year would be unusual.
And we might expect to see an increase next year, but we haven't been informed by Elliott that they're getting a pay increase.
Okay. So I would just, there's some members of the finance committee who, it's not a big deal, but they're gonna zero in on a lot of these line items under materials and supplies where you're, way underspent against the budget amount and requested budget amount for this year. So I'm sure you'll be prepared to answer those, but
Okay.
If I could just jump in for 1 second on the medical supplies. What we usually do in another couple months is we make our large Narcan purchase. So Narcan's about $20 a dose, and we'll probably be purchasing, we'll be buying $2,000 to $3,000 worth of Narcan, and that covers us for quite a while. The Narcan has a shelf life on it of usually about 18 months. So unfortunately, the Narcan goes bad and we have to resupply with new Narcan. So that goes all in the cruisers, and then our supply for, just individuals or, recovery coach sometimes gives some out just as a starter for people when they need to. So they'll definitely be, I'd say 50% of that will be eaten up with Narcan within a couple months.
okay, thank you. Chief, do you have, again, I'm sure somebody's gonna ask you this or Steve this, do you have any indications of what the contractual increase? Are you in negotiations now?
We haven't started yet. The unions just sent letters to Mr. Mayo to get that process started.
Okay,
So I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna ask for, and I haven't discussed with Mr. Mayo what he's looking to offer.
what was it last time? Do you recall offhand?
I believe last year it was 3.5%.
3.5% per year, or?
Yeah, it was a 3%, but then there was another 0.5% for something else, and I forget what the other 0.5% was for.
Yeah, the trend throughout the state right now is in the 3s right now, with inflation and whatnot. So I went to the Mass Municipal Association meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they discussed some stats. The trend is up, obviously, with the cost of living.
Right.
Yeah. In terms of manpower, Chief, no new officers planned. I know you said there's going to be retirement.
Well, can I just ask a quick question? So, before we move on to other items, is that,
Okay.
No, I think we're ready to move on. I just want to make sure, I'm, Amy, you all set in terms of line item questions, and we can move on to some other topics like Ed's bringing up about, because, I remember, last year, the chief, for example, with Ed's going in the direction of talking about all the new apartments and things going up in town and what that could cause in the future, or, you know, we talked a lot about last year. I'm looking at my notes from last year too. We talked, you know, about the body cams last year, and we talked about grants and stuff like that. So anyway, I just want to make sure we're done with talking about individual line items. It sounds like we are. So Ed, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but please go ahead.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. No, just overall manpower, your thoughts. I mean, you said there's a retirement, so you're probably gonna, obviously fill that, but no increase. I just counted them up. You get a complement of 47, I guess, right?
Right.
And you got what, 32 patrol and 15 Superior, and as you said, 1 vacancy. Yeah, but your thoughts, Chief, in terms of all of this development going on in town, new residential apartments and whatnot, and
So a lot of thoughts here. Just so you know, I did apply for a federal grant back last August. I tried to get money to hire 4 additional officers. It was a 3-year grant that would have covered the cost of 4 officers for 3 years in declining increments. It would have started out at 75%, gone down to 50, and then 25, and then we would have had to absorb them into our budget after that.
right.
Unfortunately, we did not get the grant. All the grant money went to the big cities and towns. So I was looking forward to that. Unfortunately, it didn't happen.
Well, the fire department did get a grant
Well,
very similar to that, right, Chief?
They got the
fire departments seem to have more success than police departments in that
Yeah.
grant. That's what I've noticed.
Maybe I should have them do my grant writing. So,
Well, you know, I mean, for me personally, you know, as a taxpayer, it's not lost on, you know, I mean, that's a big jump, and it's nice to get grant money, but it doesn't go too long, and it's just fully budgeted, you know, expense and
right.
benefits and, you know, everything else. I mean,
It is a lot. I just thought that, you know, I'm looking ahead, and the fact is we will need to add on to the department. When you look at the growth in town, and nobody can deny that it's happening. I mean, it's everywhere. Big buildings are going up. We're looking now, you drive down Salem Street, there's one that's near completion, 2 more that will start soon. There's one on Lowell Street. There's another one scheduled for North Ave. We have the head of the lake. There's 190 units on Hopkins Street that will be done soon. There's a plan for 180 apartments where Mike's gym is. It just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. You can't, and they're all apartments, and apartments pose a much bigger challenge to us than owner-occupied dwellings. A lot more calls for service. So we do a lot with what we have. We can't keep doing more with less. So at some point, we will have to add on to the size of the department. And that's going to be, and way I would like to do that to kind of lessen the blow is to add a combination of civilian dispatchers to the station. I know I talked about this last year.
Yep.
And to try and start adding at least 1 patrol officer every year.
Yeah.
We've really had to specialize a lot of our department to meet the demand on us. We have a family services officer, a necessity, but that takes away from patrol. You need detectives, it takes away from patrol. You need school resource officers, that takes away from patrol.
Right.
We really need to add to patrol. That's the backbone of the department. So I'd like to start adding 1 officer per year, starting next year. And I'm really going to move forward hot and heavy with the proposal for civilian dispatchers next year.
That's great. And you know, the state is very liberal with funding that. You know, we've had great success in some. We're getting a lot of money from EOPS, the state 9/11 grant program. So, as well as training money as well. So, you know.
The biggest challenge I heard, Ed, from other chiefs that I talked to was that hiring civilian dispatchers is just as challenging as hiring police or finding people that want the job.
Well, yeah, in this day and age now, it's hard to recruit for that as well, for sure.
Right.
You know,
But I think if, you know, next year, what I want to do is I want to propose it in the budget and really start moving forward on it. And if it happens that we get funded for it, we'll be ready to roll with it.
Yeah.
And if we don't get funded for it, then we'll, you know, we'll do what we can. But that's my plan for next year.
Well, I personally am very supportive of that. It's only going to free up patrol. You know, as you mentioned, the need for patrol. You're going to free up an officer at least to get out in the street. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Well, that doesn't, Chief, the way you described it to me is that does not put another officer on the street though, does it?
Well, so just so Ed and Amy know, I want to show Bill how the shift functions. So we have an officer in charge of the shift. It's a sergeant. And that sergeant currently sits in dispatch answering phones like a dispatcher along with the patrol officer. What I want to do is replace the sergeant with the civilian dispatcher so that the officer in charge can do their true function as the officer in charge, and that be watching the shift, reading reports, booking the prisoners, and being available to leave the station if they have to respond to a call if there's no supervisor available on the street to respond. Because
Okay,
we do have a young department. And especially on nights, days I don't worry about so much because those are our senior officers. But on the nights, we have a lot of young officers, and it takes a good solid 5 to 10 years to really know everything you could possibly run into on this job. And so it's good to be able to have a sergeant to go out there and help when need be. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they need mentors, the young officers for sure, you know.
Right.
So essentially, the sergeant's the watch commander, and he can actually be 100% of watch commander.
And prisoners are a huge liability. You know, we have somebody. We're lucky now that sometimes we can ship our prisoners off to the county jail. If we have a prisoner for the weekend, they might take them for the weekend. They have a safe keep. But there are times that we get stuck with prisoners overnight, prisoners for the weekend. And that's a huge liability to us and the town. So we monitor them by television and sound and dispatch, but we also have to physically check on them every half an hour. But if you're busy in dispatch, you know, half an hour might be 35 minutes. That 5 minutes can be a big deal. So having the sergeant freed up to make sure that those half-hour cell checks are made is it's important. It's extremely important in today's day of liability.
So Chief, just one, I'm sorry, just one other thing, you know, again, just want to make sure. There are 3 school resource officers, right?
Correct. So we have one full-time at the North Shore at the vocational school, and we have one at the high school, and then we have one at the Galvin. Next year, the 2 SROs, they're at the Galvin and the high school. Not only are they going to cover the Galvin and the high school, but they're going to spend time in each elementary school as well.
So just when you think about the whole force, those are 3 positions that are not quote on the street.
Correct. Like I said, we have some specialized positions that were created because there was a need for them.
And right now with the Wakefield pays that
The vocational school gives us an offset, and I believe it's $80,000 a year.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That's interesting. Yeah. Do you have a canine officer?
We do. We have a black lab, an English lab that's trained in tracking and explosives. And we have a second dog that's a comfort dog, and that's assigned to Kelly Tolbine. She's a school resource officer at the middle school. And that was something that coming out of COVID, we felt that the kids would be all stressed out coming back to school, suffering anxiety after being locked away for 1.5 years. So we got the dog for Kelly. She's very good with it. She serves on a regional stress incident management team. So she has a lot of training, and she does a great job with the dog. It's been very successful at the school, a lot of positive feedback. So we have 2 dogs, and they're both very good. Mild-mannered dogs. You can pat them, you can be around them. They're not going to bite your fingers off, which is nice. So
I can look out my window and see the canine dog from Melrose, because my neighbor is the canine officer in Melrose, and he's in a cage right in the backyard. Yeah,
he's a great kid. He's come over a lot to help us many times.
Yeah, he is. He really is. Nice guy. Yeah. So, Chief, you mentioned recruiting issues.
Sure. So I'll give you an example, just so you give you an idea of numbers. The number of people we're a civil service community. So we have to hire from a civil service eligibility list, which means that if somebody wants to be a police officer in a civil service town, they have to take the civil service police exam, which is typically offered every other year. Lately, they've been giving it every year, but to give you an idea of numbers, in 2013, there was 16,727 people that took the test statewide. In 2021, that number was 8,900. So almost half of what it was 8 years earlier. And those numbers continue to decline. And it's the fault of, when incidents like what happened in Memphis the other day happen, it just makes it worse. Fewer and fewer people.
Yeah.
It makes it less appealing to take this job. And it's really hurting us. Our current civil service list has 27 names on it. We just called to the list to fill the vacancy that we have. And what happens is when you call for the list, everybody who's on the list is notified to come to the station. They have 7 days to come in and sign the list, declaring that they're willing to accept the position. So out of the 27 people that were notified, 9 came in to sign. 1/3 of the people. So that's what we have to choose from. And following civil service guidelines, you have to go in order of the names by score.
Yep.
And you have to vet them out. If you bypass somebody, they have the right to appeal. So right now we're working our way through the list, trying to find somebody to fill the vacancy that we have. But the numbers just keep going down and down and down. And I know that for many civil service communities, they're into their non-resident list. They had nobody from their own community take the test. Never happened before. I can tell you that 20+ years ago when I got on, if you weren't in the top 4 on that list, you probably weren't getting a job.
That's right.
That's just the way it was.
That's
And
right.
when I went to, I took the civil service test at the vocational school, the line to get in the building went down Hemlock Road. That's how many people were going to take the test back then.
Yep.
And
Some departments are actually looking at lateral transfers, trying to attract people.
So we-
Officers in other departments, yeah.
we've tried laterals, Ed, and what we found with laterals is that you typically, the applicants you typically get are other people's problem children.
Right, right. So you get fresh officers, you can train them into your own culture. Yeah, yeah.
I will say this, we just hired a kid who was a Concord police officer. They're non-civil service. He had taken our civil service list test, and he's been great so far, knock on wood. So he's done a great job. But those are the challenges with hiring. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And the other challenge is you might find somebody that you really like, but their fitness standards to get into the police academy. And they applied new fitness standards 3 or 4 years ago. And it's amazing. And they're not much. I will say this, they're not very challenging, but it's amazing the number of people that can't pass the fitness test.
Chief, could you share with Amy and Ed, would you share with me the other day about the free fitness test, I guess I would refer to it as, that you made me aware of, that was fascinating?
The one to get into the academy, that one?
No, the one you do.
Oh, so we've actually, we got very frustrated a few years ago because we were looking to hire 4 people. And we sent 4 people to the fitness test to get in the academy and 3 failed. And when I say 3 failed, it was a miserable, embarrassing performance, to say the least. Bunch of kids in their young 20s who couldn't run, do sit-ups, none of the above. So what we decided to do was anybody who was a potential hire, we were going to get the fit test ourselves before we even sent them. And just to give them an idea of where they were at, what they needed to improve on. And if it was really that obvious that they weren't going to pass, we decided we weren't even going to send them. So
the chief and deputy chief are out there with fire hoses and they're doing up downs with 100-pound logs and they're spraying them, and
that's what I wished I could do.
But that, I just thought that was interesting that Amy and Ed would
Yeah,
find
yeah.
that interesting. You do a screen before you go through a process of being embarrassed by a screen, I guess.
And the other thing we learned through experience was, in the past, you make a job offer and you really weren't concerned about somebody passing the standards to get in. But because we had that one experience where 3 out of 4 didn't make it, what we do now is if we're hiring, say, 2, we'll make a 3rd person an alternate. And if one of the 2 fails the fitness test to get in, they're out. And if number 3 passes, he or she is in.
Wow.
So that's something we learned through experience.
Chief, can we shift gears? Could you talk about grants last year? You know, again, I'm just referring to the minutes, you know, you talked about some of the grants that you received or pursued. You had said like speed signs, bike rodeo, child safety seats, emergency medical dispatch, tasers, etc. Do you have any active grants being pursued right now?
We're still doing all those same grants, with the exception of the tasers. That was a one-time thing that we used to purchase new tasers. That one didn't come out this year. But we still do the child car seats, traffic safety enforcement, emergency medical dispatch, 911 training. We did have the grant last year, which is for the body cams, which is how we purchased those. So we still pursue the same grants. Like I said, I tried to get the grant for the 4 officers, didn't get that. There haven't really been any other grants that I've looked at that I think really will help us with anything. So as of right now, it's just the same grants.
Okay. And can you give us an update on the building?
So the building, the lobby is now open. It opened yesterday. And so that's open for business. They're going to start to disassemble the temporary entryways on Princess Street starting tomorrow. I think it's been a little confusing for some people about which door to go to. So the lobby came out nice. It's user friendly. It's customer friendly now. You can walk in and you can talk to somebody in fire. You can talk to somebody in dispatch. You can talk to somebody in police records if it's during the day, during the middle of the week. But the biggest thing is it's always occupied by an officer now. So 24/7, you have access to a police officer in the lobby, and that's what was missing for 20+ years. So that's kind of like the gem of the whole project. The addition that you see in the front, the expected completion date for that is early March. And there's still some renovations going on each floor. The project's supposed to wrap up completely in early May. There'll be a small punch list of items that they'll have to tinker with to get those fixed. But the project at one point was 3 or 4 weeks behind, and now they're actually ahead of schedule. They were able to make up some time on the addition. So it looks nice. It's great. When it's done, it'll really be good for us. It'll be good for anybody that comes in to visit us.
Okay. What about off of the main budget? What about capital? Are there any insights you can provide to capital, thinking that we will hear about in our meetings? Or
Capital, every year I ask for 3 cars. I'm sticking to the same. If we do 3 new cruisers every year, it helps us to keep the fleet in good shape. It helps to keep repair costs down, helps to keep cars up and running. In the past, we've had cars that just sat because they were unsafe to drive. So what we found is with the 3 cars per year, it really keeps the fleet rotating well and keeps everything in good shape. I've submitted that letter for the cars. The only thing I may add to that is we've started a drone unit, and doing our research on drones. There's some cheaper drones that you can get, but there's one particular drone that we're looking at, and it's $18,000.
do you have one? Do you have a drone now?
We don't. We actually have some people that have been trained to operate drones. They have their UAS licenses to fly them, but we don't physically have a drone yet. So this is
No grant. No, I think that'd be a primo grant thing. No.
I couldn't find any grants on it, and I also went into Combis, which is the mass purchasing website, and I couldn't even find anything in there for purchasing.
Yeah, Ed probably has a couple extra in Somerville he could give you.
Do you get any UASI money, or do you have representation with them? How does that work?
I don't have any representation with that, no. So the reason
maybe it's just, we're with Boston, nearby, we get a lot of money through UASI for various things, but I'm just thinking if there's something out there, a grant program that could fund the drone.
I'm keeping my eyes open. I'm hoping there is. But like I said, I'm going to buy 2 small drones for now, but I would like to add a bigger drone into my capital request. So you may see that. And I know that the DPW is also talking about a drone. So the reason I got hot and heavy on the drone unit was that last year, and like I talked about the 4th of July before, every year there's something that happens either domestically or internationally that changes the way we look at our preparation for the 4th of July. And last year, outside of Chicago, there was a town having a 4th of July parade, and there was a sniper on a rooftop. I don't know if you remember this, but he shot and killed 7 people last year.
Yeah.
So my goal is to have a drone unit operational for this 4th of July and scanning rooftops throughout the parade route. So sad that this is what the world has come to, but we have to be prepared for everything.
Did you say you already have 2 drones, Chief?
No, I'm looking to buy two cheaper drones that I won't need a capital request for.
Okay,
But the $18,000 drone, that's the one that's got the infrared. It's got the longer flight time, longer flight distance. That's the one. And the other part of these drones is that we have a lot of missing people, particularly at night. We want to be able to scan a wooded area with an infrared camera to look for heat. The smaller ones are good for going into buildings, but the bigger one is really going to be useful for us in the outdoor searches.
Do you have any, outside of the cruises, do you have any other, like wagons or whatnot? I'm just curious.
So last year, I requested money for 2 cruisers and a new prisoner van. So
I hate to use the word paddy wagon because of the Irish thing, because I'm Irish too, but that's, you know.
So our old
prisoner
van,
yeah.
our old van was 21 years old. It had 120,000 miles on it. It was rusted to the bone. It didn't have proper restraints in the prisoner compartments. It was basically unsafe to drive. Half the time it wouldn't start. So graciously, the capital committee gave us the money last year to buy a new van, and we went all out. We got a brand new van that has 2 compartments in it. It has the proper restraints in it, and we had it equipped with a camera system. So every prisoner is audio and video recorded while they're in the van, and that's to protect them and to protect us. It has interior lighting. It has separate heat and air conditioning controls for each compartment, and it's everything we needed. So it's great to have it.
Great.
okay, Chief, anything else you want to share with us?
No, I think I covered everything. Like I said, I think really it's important that we look ahead and look at how the town's growing, and not only do we have these construction projects, but we got to look at the high schools too. The vocational school is building a new school, and that will accommodate 400 additional students from other cities and towns. And I have to tell you, the vocational school is like a little city in itself up there. That SRO he's busy all the time. So we have bigger school coming. We have new traffic patterns around schools to be anticipated. We have apartment buildings. It just grows and grows and grows. You can't drive down the street without seeing more utilities going into the ground. So that's where it's at. Our workload is going to increase exponentially, and we need to meet the demand.
Amy, anything? Ed?
No, we covered all my questions. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll push out some I would ask that people can give feedback kind of quickly, because the chief is going to the town council on Monday. We will see this budget a week from Thursday, so a little less time than we had last year due to some other unforeseen circumstances about when the chief actually got the budget and had the time to pass it to us and us to post the meeting and things like that. So I would just like to get the minutes squared away so we can make those available to our, finance committee folks in advance of our meeting a week from Thursday.
Is that the night?
It's the 16th is when I come in front of the finance committee.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
That's
next.
what I had on my calendar. That's
Oh,
fine.
okay. That I appreciate that feedback. So you go to the selectmen like the
On the 13th.
third. Okay, so we have a little more time than I thought. That's good. Okay. That's good to know. I got that wrong. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn if we're all set.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Lieutenant Anderson, Deputy Chief, and Chief, thank you very much. Chief,
Thank
I
you.
Thanks.
hope you grow by the next time we see you. I hope you've restored to your full size.
That's all right. Makes me easier to escape out of places, you know? I'm not small.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, good night.
Bye-bye.